Welcome to another Ridercast. I'm your host MJ. This time I'm going to be talking about the 15th Hesei-era Kamen Rider, Kamen Rider Gaim, also known as the Fruit Pokemon Samurai? Fruit Samurai Pokemon guy? Anyway, here we go. First off, starting with the meta information. Kamen Rider Gaim aired from October 6, 2013 to September 28, 2014. There were a total of 47 episodes, it looks like, which is a little shorter than others. The first and second episodes were written by Gen Urobuchi and directed by Ryuta Tasaki. Now, I guess I, at this time, should mention that Gen Urobuchi has a little bit... He's kind of a loaded figure, or he might be rich. I don't know. My point is that he's kind of maybe a divisive figure or a very popular figure. I don't know if I'd say he's polarizing, but he is mainly an anime writer, but also a visual novel writer. So I'm just going to read this straight from the wiki so I represent it well. It says, Gen Urobuchi is a Japanese writer for visual novels, light novels, and anime. He is famous/infamous for his work on Madoka Magica and Fate Zero. He is also known for his dark style, nihilistic themes, and tragic plot twists, giving him the nickname the Uro Butcher from English-speaking fans of Gen's work. So, he worked on Gaim, and I remember the hype leading up to him coming into Gaim was that he dove into a bunch of Kamen Rider, I think. Oh, no, that's not true. That's the other guy. That's the next show, I think. No, that's... Sorry. Excuse me for getting all tripped up. I will go ahead and continue the meta information and wrap up on all this stuff later. I can do another writer cast I can do a goodness gracious me. I could do an MJ Loves Toku about Gen Urobuchi coming into Kamen Rider if I really want to. So, anyway, what I wanted to talk about next was the fact that the opening theme song is lit. It's called Just Live More. And so it's funny how all these things... Well, anyway, the lyricist was Fujibayashi Shoko. The composer was Tatsuo. And the singer was Gaim no Kaze, which I believe was an ad hoc band or whatever potentially put together for the production of the song, because it's more corporate than we might like to admit. Anyway, wrapping up meta information, the suit actor for Kamen Rider Gaim was Seiji Takawa, as typical. We also saw a white rider, Zangetsu, in the second episode, in the beginning of the second episode, I think it was, and that was he was portrayed by Watanabe Jun. And I'm going to go ahead and just throw out there that the Invess had suit actors in them, and at least one of them was played by Kazuya Okola. And I'm scanning here to see if I can find any other person who's credited with... okay. Well, no, it's a specific one. Yeah, I can't find any other generic Invess suit actors just scanning through here. So it's a little too bad, but hey, what are you going to do? The premise of Kamen Rider Gaim, as it appears from these first two episodes, is that Kota Kazuraba is a young man who's trying to transform himself. He wants to become a responsible adult. He's left one world behind, and he has tried to join the adult responsible world, but his plans kind of get shaken up when he discovers the whole Invess game. He gets entangled in kind of the Invess games and the war going on between the dance troops that he used to be in, and there's this other world, a zipper dimension, if you will, where he and his friend Mai go. And anyway, he ends up getting this driver, a Sengoku driver actually, and gaining the power to turn into Kamen Rider Gaim, which he does, and he uses to defeat an Invess who is attacking him and his friend Mai. He saves her life. He fights another one who's attacking innocent civilians, and behind it all, I think there's some sort of crazy rider war fruit samurai thing that's going to happen, because that was kind of previewed, and there was a talk about fate and things like that. And seizing your fate is something that not Mai, an alternate version of Mai, it looks like, talks to him. It's something she talks to him about. So, and I don't know, interesting looking show, but that's basically the premise. Okay. The audio might be a little different here. Doing the best I can, folks. Anyway, moving on to the cast. I want to talk about Kota Kazuraba first, because Kota is a pretty cool guy. He seems to be possessed of a great streak of responsibility and maturity, and it impresses me that at the beginning of the show he's already kind of moving a ways in his journey towards maturity, and he actively states that he wants to be more mature, more responsible, more of an adult, and he strives for that. Now, he has some stumbling as he is on the stairway to maturity, because he's still a young man, and he, doesn't have his act together completely, and that's totally natural. So he seems like a very realistic young person. I don't know how old he's supposed to be. I think they say, 18, 19, something like that, but I don't remember, so whatever. But that's, I got a good sense of him, and I really like that. I think it's a Kuuga callback, which is why I was confused and thought Urobuchi had looked at mainlined, I guess is what I mean. Like, he had consumed a lot of Kamen Rider right before working on this, and there's some confusion with Ryuki and whatnot, but I think he had kind of taken in a lot of Kamen Rider at the time. Again, I'm supposed to talk about that at a later date. Sorry. This is what happened when I record hours apart. So, regardless, the character of Kota is very optimistic. He has that very Kuuga moment where he stops and he helps that kid, and he kind of preaches, that's a bad way to say it, but he instructs the kid in optimism, and he tells him to look at life as a game, and to set rules for yourself, to set win conditions for yourself, so that you're choosing to do the thing that'll make you win, and that you're steering away yourself from negative behaviors or traits that will cause you to lose. And I think that's a really interesting way that he chooses to look at things, and I really appreciate that, and that definitely contrasts with somebody else that we will get into in a minute or two. Yuya, the current leader of Team Gaim, reads like a very much older character to me, and if he's not actually older, then he's supposed to be very mature and probably have great leadership qualities, and I can see that in him. It's interesting to see him kind of as an elder statesman of the group, talking with Kota about how the scene has changed and how the streets have changed and whatnot. And I'm really interested in him because, it looked like he was going to be Kamen Rider Gaim, but then something happens to him. I wonder if he's like with that Zangetsu guy or the White Rider guy who was protecting people in the second episode. Regardless, it seems like I doubt he flaked out in that situation. Maybe something happened and he lost the belt or whatever. But it's interesting how Kota mentioned specifically to Mai that Yuya has been known to disappear on them for lengths of time. So I'm kind of looking forward to him popping back up in the show because based on what I've seen in these episodes, it seems like he probably would. Mai is a really exciting and interesting character to me. She's a youngish girl. I don't know how much younger she's supposed to be than Kota, but she reads a little younger, and she definitely seems to be projecting a desire to not grow up quite yet. She still wants to pursue a youthful life, that's slightly carefree. I'm going to say slightly carefree because they're in these dance gangs. And I guess what the truth of the matter is she's more interested in pursuing her art, which she is accepted and rolled with the fact that necessitates battle of some sort. I think they used to just be dance-offs, but now they've got the Lockseed battles with the whatever they're called, the Invess battles, and she's willingly participating in those. While she's remaining in the arts and so to speak rejecting adulthood as opposed to Kota, she still looks up to Yuya. Like I said, he's an elder statesman kind of character, and expresses remorse for disappointing him and for failing in the situation where she lost the stage to Baron and whatnot. And I think that's all really interesting, and she seems like a really neat character. And one of my favorite things is that she tells Kota, hey, let me have that belt, that Sengoku driver, and I'm going to do what I need to with it in Yuya's stead because I'm Team Gaim and you're not, so get out of here. Gaim is kind of a large cast, so I'll quickly go through. Michi is one of the supporting Team Gaim members, and he gets a couple mentions, and he gets some prominent play in the first and second episodes, and he's kind of pining for Kota to come back, and it kind of reflects the whole mood of the team, so that's kind of interesting. I don't know who these kids are. I guess, youthful people have time. I don't know. I'm old and I got little kids, so I don't know anymore. But it's funny, they all hang out in their own little base camp or like secret hideout kind of thing. And even Team Baron has one, and there's this real decked out and super nice, and it's got a big fancy car in it and stuff, and just very strange the setup of these. I don't know if they get money from the dancing too or what, or how these people are funding things. But anyway, then we get to see we also have Kota, whoever the guy of Team Baron is. You know what? I don't even know this guy's name. I'm just going to call him Mr. Baron. I don't know how it is that his name is escaping me right now, and to be more professional, I should probably pause and find out what it is, but I'll get back to him later. I'm going to call him Mr. Strength because that's what he seems to be all about. And when it comes to the dancing teams, his favoring of strength comes off as very aggressive, very selfish, very one-dimensional, almost very criminal. And there's a scene in the second episode, I believe, where he is menacing and intimidating Mai, and I thought he might have physically attacked her. He did not, but the body language, the behavior, the acting, the performance was very good. All of it put forth to me the idea that this guy was willing to come to blows with an actual other person over dancing territory when he could otherwise peacefully, gain access to it or maintain access to it, really, because his team had gotten access to the dancing stage, the Western stage as it's called. And makes me very uncomfortable. I don't like it. Like a well-made villainous character, but he's a little more complex than that, and I will get to that later as well. I just remembered that his name is Kaito Kuman, but anyway, I'm going to talk about Rei right now. Rei, I believe her name is Rei. He just calls her Nechan, I believe, in the the script, or it's translated to sister, but he calls her Rei-chan, I think. Anyway, whatever. I believe Rei is the sister. Rei Kazuraba is the sister of Kota, and she took over taking care of him. I don't know how much older she is than him, maybe 10 or something, 10 years older than him, when their parents died. And she's been responsible, and she's coaching him and encouraging him in maturing, because, again, that's the thing that he's focused on right now, and he really wants to grow up and carry his own weight and be a responsible adult, and she's cheering him on in that, which is really great. So the Drive cast is fairly large with lots of kind of incidental characters, but I feel like most of them are being set up for something down the line. Like Sid, this lock dealer, he sells lock seeds, but he also sold the Sengoku driver, and he seems to know a lot about what's going on, so maybe he's involved more deeply. And I feel like TG Saga, who I didn't include here, is really pushing those things hard, and if there's some larger scheme going on, maybe the two of them are partners in it. And then we have this other Mai. She looks like a Kingdom Hearts character or Final Fantasy character to me, which I kind of dig. I think that's a cool look. It's definitely catchy and trendy and fun. But like she reinforces the theme about fate and basically tells, not Yuya, Kota, that once he makes this choice, it'll like seal his fate. And she's saying, like, is this the way you want things to be? And he says, if that's what it takes to protect you, then yes. And I don't know, it's interesting because we don't really get much from her other than she seems wiser than regular Mai and more experienced, and like she knows more about what's going to happen than the audience or most of the other characters do at this point. So while Kota is running around trying to use his newfound power, to transform his transformed self, which he thinks should be better and different from his old self or current self, so to speak, at the beginning of the series, Kaito Kuman has this very interesting interaction with a little kid, similar to the interaction that Kota has in the first episode. There's a kid stuck in a tree, and Kaito helps the boy get out of the tree. But he doesn't do it in the way that Kota wants to. He doesn't do it for him. He doesn't use his own strength. He coaches the kid and encourages him to be courageous and to take action and to, I guess, seize his own destiny and change his own fate. Definitely he challenges the boy to be more than he is currently, and to conquer a fear, even a small fear, And then after that, he exhorts him to continue on this path, basically, and to continue to count on himself and his own strength in order to get him out of dangerous situations or uncomfortable situations. And I find that really laudable and very heroic for the most part. It's interesting because it so sharply contrasts with his behavior in the Gaim cave or the Team Gaim base or whatever. But then again, those are peers, and this is a child who he wants to foster or encourage to grow in the type of strength he wants to see in the world. Because it's not that he doesn't want to lose, it's that he wants everybody to be strong, but he just wants to be stronger. It seems that seems to be his outlook on life so far. Anyway, and then one last thing, like the whole Team Gaim dynamic, everybody just seems kind of friendly and nice, but like they're not the hardest, sharpest people just yet, and I don't know. That makes them an easy target for Baron, Team Baron, and specifically Kaito and his outlook on the world. There's a lot of visuals to go through, so I'm going to talk about design pretty quickly. We'll see how this goes. So if you're looking at the video version of this, right now I'm showing two riders who we don't really know the identity of, except I spoiled that one of them is Zangetsu, the white and green melon guy. And yeah, so I mean, there's two more riders we have to look forward to seeing in the course of the show. Then there's the Invess in their world. So they're these weird, like, gray creatures. They look kind of parasitic or partially formed like worms, like the worms from Kabuto, actually, in my opinion. And we see that they're feeding on the fruits in the forest, but these fruits turn into lock seeds. Specifically, when Kota has the Sengoku driver on, they're able to turn into the lock seeds, I'm guessing by the virtue of the power of the Sengoku driver converting them. But there's these typical fruits. They all look the same. They're purple with like kind of a skirt on them, and they're really interesting. But there's also other plants in the forest where the Invess are, and outside of the zipper portal thing, some of the plants appear too, and it's kind of a plot point for later. But anyway, it's a really interesting, weird organic design, and then you've got these, you know, vines, and then like the first creature that they fight, it's like a tiger or a panther, maybe a jaguar. It looks to me like an Aztec or Mayan inspired design for a jaguar, sort of. Anyway, he has, I think it's a pretty neat design. Actually, like from the waist up, it's really cool, and the legs are kind of not so great. Like they're very minimally designed, as you'll be able to see. I think they're very minimally designed, and they kind of originally when I saw Gaim, I was really impressed by them, by that whole design. But then seeing it more and looking at it really, really carefully this time, I was a little surprised by how lackluster the legs were. But the top half is great, and that's what gets most of the focus. I guess that's all I'll really say about that for now. But then we've got the Sengoku driver. It's your basic rider buckle thing where it slaps onto them and then the belt appears around their waist, which is a really great effect, and it's really cool. They've been doing that for like 17, 18 years, something like that. Anyway, or maybe not that long. Since Ryuki, maybe? I think since Ryuki. Anyway, so you insert the lock seed in there and then use the little lame knife thing. The Sengoku driver's design is not great. It looks like a child's toy. I will come out and say that right now. Obviously it's used to, well, and then like they get the giant piece of fruit on their head before it splits open and turns into their armor. So like, it's a very silly design. The show has a lot of silliness to it, and just going from this first set of episodes, like I was shocked by how fun and bright and poppy and silly a lot of the design work was, and a lot of the display or implementation of it was. And I actually enjoy that aspect because it's a kind of a ridiculous design, and I feel like they're having fun with it and they're not embarrassed of it, which is pretty cool. But anyway, the Gaim armor starts Kota off with, I think, 2 swords. He's got one in a holster and then one that just like appears in his hand that looks like an orange slice, and it even has a green part to its handle that makes it even look even more like an orange slice. And then he's got a sword that doubles as a gun, which is pretty typical of Kamen Rider. Sometimes they transform into a gun. This one's kind of like the Ixa Saber, I think is what it's called, from Kamen Rider Kiva, where it just has a gun attachment or part on it that he can shoot out of. And then those two combine into like a, not a lance, but like a double-bladed sword of some sort. I don't know what you would call it, but it's kind of neat. It's really kitschy, and kind of a, like I said, a weird design. And then this isn't really a design aspect, it's more of a location thing, but they go to this weird factory that they've used since then a lot more in Kamen Rider. So the lock seeds are like I said, they're a really silly, wild, fantastical design, and it's funny how I can see how all the kids using it, all the dancers using them, think that they're just part of a fun game because they look so toyetic. They look, I mean, they have numbers, like serial numbers on them, like product line numbers, and the way the Invess appear are in like these little holographic arenas. Think like Yu-Gi-Oh! And the dual disc system that Kaiba created. It's kind of like that's projected. I don't know if that's specifically on the stage or that's supposed to come from the lock seed, but they look very soft and like they're meant to be played with, like they're meant to be toys, and I can see why the characters would be fooled by that, because I think they're obviously not. They're something supernatural because they come from inside that zipper dimension. And then we've got pineapple armor. Again, if you're watching the video version of this, it's pineapple armor, and if you're not, you can go to if you're listening to the audio only version, you can go to mjmunoz.com and look up another Rider cast, or type in Gaim, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. Yeah, it's a pineapple armor. He's got like a pineapple on his head and pineapple parts on his shoulders and stuff, and he does a giant pineapple kick to a giant CGI monstrosity. These Rider shows, I had meant to track the growth and development of these things, but these Rider shows typically have in the first or second episode a regular monster turned into some extreme monster that the Rider is able to defeat with a power that they use seldom in the premiere, and then, you know, maybe every 10 or 15 episodes or so, and that's kind of what happens here. Well, I don't remember how much more he uses this, but Kocha does this crazy pineapple kick where he throws the pineapple mace part of his weapon onto the giant deer Invess's head, and then he kicks a hole through it that looks like a hole that you like serve on top of like a pig, or like when you slice pineapple and put holes in it. That's what it looks like, and it's really ridiculous, and they really lean into it. And then when it explodes, a bunch of those chunks of pineapple rings come flying out of the fiery explosion, and it's pretty hilarious. And like I don't mean that to be insulting. I mean, to me, that's the strength of Tokusatsu, that it's not afraid to take ridiculous looking things and just go all the way with them, and that's really like bold and brave and neat, and I have a lot of fun with that. Another thing that was really cool is that the Invess eat the lock seeds in different ways to gain power, and this deer Invess grows more powerful by eating the strawberry lock seed and I guess obtaining its power, which is kind of what the Invess were being shown to do in the zipper dimension where they were. So it's all consistent. So here we go. My overall thoughts on Kamen Rider Gaim. It was a very divisive show. It was funny in the fandom at the time. It was really divisive, and if you're coming at it as a fresh viewer, and I mean that literally, like if you're new in the fandom, hello, welcome, first of all. But second of all, it was really, it was a dividing point. There was a guy who was he had a huge collection, and he rage quit over Kamen Rider Gaim when we saw the first clear images of the design that we knew weren't fakes, or that we knew were official, and got the premise that it was, you know, fruit samurai Pokemon or whatever, and he up and left, and it was bad. I don't bring that up to mock him, I just bring that up to say, you know, at the time it was very divisive, and you're not getting the same feel for it coming into it now. But I have to say, in retrospect, it's not as dramatic a shift as I mean, like the visuals are very dramatic, and like the fruit coming down on the head and stuff like that is very dramatic, and it feels very much like an anime, but Gen Urobuchi's an anime writer, so like the way it's written so far, it feels like a cool sci-fi anime with the way everybody's introduced, even with the like text appearing on the screen and stuff. Like I saw that all the way back in Digimon 02 when I just knew it was the second season of Digimon. Before I knew it was Japanese, really. I thought Digimon was just a cartoon, and I didn't realize until years later, I think, that it was, you know, actually from Japan and you know, different and stuff from like an American cartoon. But I knew I liked Digimon and stuff like it because I think I just gel with the Japanese style of storytelling more than I do a Western approach, let's say. But gosh, sorry for that tangent. Yeah, Gaim has like a really awesome, energetic opening, and first of all, I mean, like the song is great too. The opening song, Don't Say No, Just Live More, really cool. I like it a lot. It's super diggable. Eminently diggable. Sorry. Anyway, and like Kocha seems like a really interesting character, really interesting protagonist. He's focused on transforming and changing himself and like growing up, and that's what the Kamen Rider journey looks like it'll do to him anyway, which is cool that he's kind of aware of that and he wants that for himself already. There's like a really rich supporting cast. It's multi-layered. There's multi-factions. Kota is the main character, but Kaito looks like he could be a main character too, like the main character. He seems like he might legitimately be worthy of the slot of protagonist. Even though he is a little prickly, there seems to be a really good core to him. Again, despite how irascible he is, and it's really interesting. And from this debut, I'm interested to see how his character develops, and the impression that I have. It seems like it could be really cool, and like we could have a cool multi-lead show. So I mentioned the potential for all these different characters, but there's potential for the rest of the story to unfold as well. There definitely appears to be an evil organization, or a clandestine organization at the very minimum, that is running some sort of operation in the background. It was very funny. There was a scene in the juice bar, which is called like Droopers or something like that, and Yuya and Kota were talking about where all these lock seeds come from, and then there's a little montage where we see vignettes or clips really of this Yggdrasil company. This is a planned city, Zawame City, and I don't know if it's at the center of it, but there's a giant tree-looking building called that belongs to the Yggdrasil company, who has a tree as their logo, and then these lock seeds are all coming from another dimension, it looks like, where they're from fruits that turn into things, and fruits grow on trees. I don't think the stylized Yggdrasil tree has fruit that grows on it specifically, but I mean, it seems like it's referring to that sort of thing, or there's an allusion between the company being called Yggdrasil, the world tree from Norse mythology or whatever. I know very limited stuff about it. And there being fruits, and their ad for Yggdrasil on the TV playing in the bar actually shows slices of fruit. There's oranges and strawberries and stuff like that. So I definitely think, and I think I said it felt like Kamen Rider Faiz, because Faiz has in the first or second episode this little ad for Smart Brain, the company that is the evil organization. I think they're evil, but I haven't seen enough of Faiz to really know 100% for sure that they are evil, but it feels very much like that. So that's kind of interesting. Again, Gaim kind of feels very self-aware of the fact that it's a Kamen Rider show, and that's kind of interesting to me. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping it up now. So, what is your impression of Kamen Rider Gaim? What did you think about it? First of all, did you like this set of debut episodes? What were your favorite things about it? Least favorite things, I guess. And who are your favorite characters in Kamen Rider Gaim? Because, speaking now outside of my false naivete, I've seen the whole show. I know what happens. So, what were your favorite twists and turns? Who was your favorite protagonist or villain, or let me just say character? And do you like any of the non-writer people more than the writers? Explain all that to me. I'd be fascinated to know. And I guess, where does Gaim rank for you in Kamen Riders? Especially if it's your number one or your dead last. I want to know what your reasoning is for that. I think that would be some pretty fun stuff to answer. So anyway, now I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. So first of all, you can get out of here right about now if you want to. If you're listening to the, depending on what version you're listening to, you might want to jump off now. That's pretty much all I have to say about the show, particularly, and about Kamen Rider Gaim. And now I'm going to talk about myself. So I want to thank everybody who's listening or watching. When I put the show on iTunes, I got a couple dozen more views, and that's really cool to me. So if you're enjoying the show, please give me a rating. It would really be helpful. If you're watching this on YouTube, well, okay, let me continue. If you don't know quite where to get this, if you only have one episode of this, you can go to mjmunoz.com, look up Gaim or another Ridercast, or just ARC, or look in the podcasts tab in the menu, and you'll be able to find all the podcasts that I'm doing. I have multiple going all at once because I'm a madman. I'm trying to wrap them up, but anyway, you can find those there. There's a link in the show notes for the iTunes, for the Google Play, and for just the RSS that you can plug into like Dogcatcher or any other pod feeder of your choice. So that's really cool. And if you're finding this on YouTube, I would engagement's key, so please like, comment, share. I'm asking questions because I want people to comment, but I'm also genuinely interested in talking about Kamen Rider, because I don't really talk about Rider or Sentai or anything with much people in my real life. So anybody online who wants to chat with me about it, I'd be more than happy to. I enjoy this stuff. I love talking about it. So yeah, drop me a line, comment here. here. You can also comment on the blog, mgmunoz.com. Again, another Ridercast or ARC. Type that in the search and you'll be able to find the post. Or type in Gaim or Kamen Rider or whatever, you should be able to find it pretty quickly. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. So I had questions about, your favorite characters in Gaim, how it ranks for you and why. Those are the kinds of things I'd like to know. And then check out this new, if you're watching the video version, you can see this new show art that I made. It says another Rider Cast, and then it lists all the riders from Kuuga to Zio, because that's what I'm talking about. Everybody from Kuuga to Zio. Kuuga to Zio. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. So if you've engaged in all that stuff to help me, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And to help yourself, if you're over in YouTube land, you can go ahead and subscribe. Ring the notification bell so you can get a notice every time I release one of these, hopefully. Supposedly the system's buggy, but it'll help if you do it, I think. So go ahead and do that. And if you have any tips for me on what to do to improve the show, let me know. I recorded in my office, in my car, out at the park with my family. So, the audio's maybe all over the place, but if it isn't, let me know. And if it is, let me know, and I'll try to be better about it. Just, I'm busy and I got a lot of stuff going on. So anyway, that's all I have to say for now. Again, mgmunoz.com. You can visit there for all my stuff, and I do lots of other stuff. Talk about other tokusatsu and anime, and I'm writing stuff and trying to get fit. And anyway, just really busy, and that's all I will say. I'm rambling on. Thank you so much for your time again, especially if you listen all the way to the end. You're a champ, and let me know who you are in the comments if you've listened all the way through, and I know, maybe we can chat, and that'd be a lot of fun. So one last time, thank you so much. Now go out there, folks, and until next time, be well.